Hey guys, it's Pastor John here, and I'm bringing to you another small group tip. And this one has to do with something that we're all going to run across eventually as facilitators and hosts. And it has to do with how to navigate a conversation in which someone in your group is espousing what you think to be poor theology. And I'm saying you think to be poor theology because I want to make the distinction that just because you think it's poor or improper or bad theology doesn't necessarily mean that it is. You could be the one that's mistaken. So I want you to keep that in mind, that we're allowed to have differing opinions on theology, so long as it isn't with regards to a central claim of the Christian faith. A central claim would be something like the deity of Jesus, or the Trinity, or that God raised Jesus from the dead bodily. So if it's an issue that's not central to the claim, feel free to explore it. We don't want to ignore theology, but if it is a central claim, you might want to try to pause the conversation and then have that continue the conversation with the person outside of group, maybe after the group or before the next group, or better yet, call them for coffee and see where they're coming from. Or you can get a pastor involved, and feel free to call us. We'd love to walk you through something like that. And these issues are fun, and they can be fun, but we also want to remember that Rabbi Zacharias wrote this. He wrote, "We're fashioned by God to be thinking and emotional creatures. The emotions should follow reason and not the other way around." And what he's saying is that we want to let our reasoning and our thinking lead us, not our emotions. Because when we're dealing especially with matters of theology, it gets personal fast, and it gets emotional fast. So we as facilitators want to make sure that we're keeping things grounded and level-headed for everybody in the group, and make sure that everybody's staying comfortable and not awkward. One way that I do that, if somebody is talking about theology and the conversation's kind of going awry, or they're saying something I really just disagree with, what I'll do is I'll turn the discussion back to the passage at hand, or of the topic of discussion, and ask a clarifying question. How did you come to that conclusion from the passage? So if we're doing a sermon notes study in Ephesians, for instance, and they say something that I think is a little weird and out of left field, I'll ask them, how have you come to that conclusion from what we've been looking at, or what pastor said from the pulpit? And that keeps the conversation centralized on the topic at hand. And also, sometimes you want to, what I'll do is if somebody's saying something and not leaving it alone, and they want to dig into a theological issue, I go personal on the person. So basically, I'll connect with that person that's espousing what I think to be improper theology, and I'll connect with them personally, and I'll guide that person to look into his or her own heart or motivations for their belief. So in the process, you're digging into really a very personal issue with them, and then sometimes you're going to reveal some major hurts. Maybe they don't believe hell exists because Aunt Sally just died 3 weeks ago, and she wasn't a non-believer, and she cannot get herself to believe that Aunt Sally is in hell. And that's a very real concern, and it's a hard issue, and we want to be empathetic, but getting at the core of that issue helps us understand why the person believes what they believe, and then we can go from there and get personal with the issue, help them with their personal need, and then later we can address the theology if it doesn't address itself. So those are just a couple of ways that I deal with somebody who is espousing improper theology in my groups, and I have fun with it too, and it's a good time. So I think that's all I have to say about it. If you have more questions, call me anytime. Always available to you, and thank you guys so much. There's one other thing I'd really like to discuss with you, and that has to do with our small group evaluations that are coming up. I would love it if you guys as leadership team would really push these in your groups. The more of these that we get in, the better our groups are going to be, because they're going to be filling out how they feel about the groups, what we're looking at, what they'd like to see in the future. So we're going to be able to tweak groups and make them as best as they possibly can be here at Living Oaks, and push these. They're going to be available online. You can go online and fill it out right at the link provided in this email that got you the video. I'm going to have printed copies at every service for the next 3 weeks, or from week 7 until the end of your groups, or at least the session of your group. So feel free to pick up a stack and then hand them out to your group, so you don't have to print them out. And the more we get, the better. So just push them for me. And if you need anything, like I said, I'm always here. And God bless you. Thank you. I'm praying for you guys. And I'm starting to hear some great stories. So if you have great stories about what God's doing in your group, let me know, and I'll be in touch. All right?